understand that ideas are everything. In response to this pop culture misconception, there is another school of thought that it has become popular in the startup community to say things like execution is everything and ideas do not matter. And there are people who say that ideas are everything, execution doesn't matter. In that context, there is a professor from Stanford Graduate Business School who came up with something very interesting, and it was like way back. It is called the idea maze. So let's talk about the entertainment industry, right? Or I think someone mentioned building AI-based gym trainer. Let's talk about Mihir. Mihir is into the fitness industry. And right now in that particular fitness industry, he has a particular idea about AI-based gym trainer, right? The idea might work, might not work. We never know as things about startup. But if we understand the industry landscape in terms of what kind of evolution the industry has gone through from the beginning or from the inception of humanity, let's say, for that matter, because that helps us understand what kind of human psychology is there in the fitness market altogether, and then relating it to the present last few years on what is happening in the market. Similar to what you can see over here, the good idea is a detailed path to the main. So basically, let's say right now you have an idea that you'll be renting out movies, something similar to Netflix. Then in the same industry in itself, there are people who are renting out music. We can understand their dynamics. How does it exactly work? There are people who are renting out subscription services on music as well. There are people who are downloading free music from BitTorrent or free movies from BitTorrent as well. There is an industry which is already exists over here. And similarly, there is YouTube, which gives creators to monetize. This is more of a anyone can create sort of platform, whereas Netflix is different, Spotify is different, BitTorrent is different. So creating an idea maze like this gives you an entrance to the maze in itself. Maybe you are entering over here in the space of BitTorrent, or in the case of fitness, let's say for that matter, what Mihir is building. He's entering into AI-based fitness training right now, let's imagine. But the industry is so huge. Once you get started with this, which we'll discuss on next session in itself, about building your MVP, getting our first set of users, then we try to validate it or invalidate it. We won't be working for a long time on something that doesn't work. If it works, if we are able to validate, then we'll stick to this maze or stick to this direction of the maze. But if we get a signal that the competition is very high in this particular area of a maze, and there are segments on right of the maze, on top of the maze, where the competition is low, the market demand is high, then we might think about moving to that direction and again try to validate the idea. So that is the concept about idea maze. What I would recommend you to do is please create an idea maze today in itself to understand where exactly are you getting into this industry. A lot of things are getting dominated by AI, ChatGPT sort of integrations and all. So look at where the industry is going. What was the past of this particular industry that you are interested in work? And then sort of see where exactly can you go and where exactly is it very easy to get started with. Yeah. So let's talk about this industry in itself. You can use any Figma. It's convenient to. So in this case, we are talking about the market of investing altogether, or fintech, if we go very broad. I'm not an expert in fintech, although I'll show you a tentative way of doing it. And then you're talking about investing in securities based out of US, right? If I'm correct. Okay. So here, if we look at this industry, we can start with competitor research. Crunchbase is a good website to do that. Crunchbase, Owler, these are quite helpful in doing this. Or you can search about something where you need a starting point. Let's say India Bonds, as far as I understand, is one of your competitors, but they help in investing in India, right? So India Bonds competitor, Built Wealth, Harmony, Bondstar. I'll unmute you so that you can unmute yourself.
Yep.
Right? Like,
okay.
Let's say someone is working on the fitness industry in itself. You'll have a starting point, maybe CultFed or whatever these guys are. Then once we have that list, let's say India Bond, InMoney is there. I will say it's not into bond market, but they help in investing in the US, right? Then write down a brief description on what exactly they do, which is relevant to your India Bonds. I think buy securities in India. Built Wealth is into the same segment. Then maybe traditional players in this market. So if you see India, AK Capital is one of the market leader in bonds, right? So obviously, since you are building fintech, then you should be able to get all these information through research by reading industry papers. Once we have this thing in mind, then we need to segment few things. One is, let's say, we can say buy securities in India for big deep pocket clients. That's what AK Capital does, right? Let's say JP Morgan wants to buy bond based out of India. So that's what is their target. So here we'll put AK Capital over here. But for consumers, buy securities in India for consumers, let's say, it can be Built Wealth or India Bond, right? Similarly, we can go on and on. Buy stocks in India, a lot of players, very crowded market right now, right? Something like JP Morgan and all these guys will come into this. But over here, for consumers here, let's say Zerodha will come into the picture or Grow will come into this segment. Now, when you are saying helping people in India buy foreign security, right? That's what you are talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That will lie somewhere in the landscape. So this is how you can get started with this. Once you get started with this, then you have to match pattern in terms of building the whole
Okay.
landscape of this industry, line from stocks
Okay.
to security, selling from India to sort of other economies, and then parallelly looking at who are they selling to. Is it like very deep pocket clients or consumers in India?
Okay.
Does it help? It's a very, very deep process. It might take a lot of time to create this, but it will eventually increase understanding of the whole space altogether. And when you are answering questions to investors that they are pitching over there, it shows that you know your thing really well. Okay, so here's the
Okay.
framework that we have extensively used and researched on since last 2.5 years. It has worked like magic for a lot of folks who are looking for co-founders or who were hiring their early team for their venture, which was at a growth stage. It's called the Edge, Belief, Hunch, and Test framework. So in this scenario, then moving forward, a brief idea like we mentioned, what is your primary edge? This is your sword. This is your right to win because you have the confidence that you know this better than a lot of people in the market. Right. Once you are able to identify this, it should take a maximum of 1 week starting from today in itself, since you are talking to people at Excel. Even when you are talking to your colleagues at workplace or friends at college, use this framework. Then eventually we come to build. Now, I'll ask both of you to combine both of your edges, communication and stock market, and think or discuss what you believe could be different in 5 years' time, and where exactly can you leverage your edges to do this or to make this happen. Let's say someone who is really good at machine learning right now, and let's say I understand the education industry. When we both come together, we might think about what will education be after 5. Someone like me is talking to you right now, but maybe after 5 years, I believe that the machine or avatars will be talking to people in a very interactive way, maybe more interactive than right. So that's a belief, something which is more ambitious, something that is transformational from the current patterns of work. Right. So what future can you imagine combining both of your edges in stock market and communication? Once you start exploring with other people and pass on ideas, sort of brainstorm together, then we can formulate belief. Like I mentioned, education might change after 5 years. After 5 years, it might be an AI avatar interacting with people. And that is something which is counterintuitive and non-trivial as well, because a lot of people might think historically, since the inception of humanity, education has always been one-on-one or one-to-group. It has never been dominated by machine. But here, it is something which is counterintuitive. And the market matters always. And how exactly can we leverage technology that is very recent to fundamentally change or disrupt a particular sector or category? Again, going back to the example of education. And if that change happens, which is counterintuitive, so a lot of people are going to tell you that, hey, this is not how it is going to work in future. A lot of investors might tell you that this is not an investable idea. But those non-trivial or counterintuitive beliefs are the ones which can actually transform some of the industries. And we'll discuss about this sometime later once we understand about the size of the market. But here is an example of what I was sort of trying to do. It wasn't a great success this time, but this is a deep learning platform for breast cancer detection. It's called as mammography. If we see their belief, it is mostly about people who were involved in this. They were sort of experts in understanding cancer, understanding biochemistry, and then they were able to come out of this. Then when we talk about hunch, it is more about an idea, a specific idea. Let's say when I mentioned that the belief is that AI-based avatar will take over education, then the hunch can be, if let's say an avatar that will teach interview preparation, as simple as that, the starting point. Once that starting point is there, then it's just about finding the right customers and then delivering it to them. And this doesn't mean that this is the way we brainstorm ideas or figure out ideas, but this is the way we build teams. Are we able to work together on finding a hunch, finding a belief, finding a business model all together or not? So that's pretty much all about it. With an example, I'll end this conversation. Talking about Unitary, a London-based company, they can replace human moderators of online content with AI. So the thing I was talking about recently, human moderators will be replaced with AI. That is the hunch that they have. But eventually, they built something which is kind of very different. It sort of changed and evolved through time. Unitary captures value by charging per minute of video uploaded. Right now, it is more of a data training platform. So Hunch is basically about what is the exact product that we are going to create or the idea that you are talking. So that comes a bit later after finding a belief of the market, after finding the idea maze. So that sort of opens up our brain to revolve around the whole space altogether. Any questions as of now? Bit more details are there that we'll cover later, but just giving you a brief understanding. So once you are done with finding your own edge in the next 1 week, let's say, exploring what you have done in the best possible way, maybe machine learning, maybe hyperspectral imaging, maybe sales altogether, maybe designing can be your edge. Then finding someone who complements you in some other aspect. Otherwise, we might spend a lot of time just revolving around our own edge solo and might not be able to build what we want. Then we have to look at people who are complementary in terms of skills to us. The Accept database is there, dashboard is there. Hopefully you all have signed up. The alumni dashboard is also there. Once you do not get someone from Accept dashboard, let's say, feel free to reach out to us to get access to the alumni dashboard. Then talk to a lot of people, not just from Accept community, but also over the internet, maybe on LinkedIn. Reaching out to people is always good. And your colleagues, your friends, and try to formulate a belief together that matches to yours, because this gives a hinge. This gives a hinge to sort of stick to something that you both believe and then figure out a product or a hunch that is going to work. And then we move ahead and test the product. Testing is something which we'll do throughout the next 8 weeks altogether. But before that, it is important to build a team. If you are able to do it solo, well and good. But in most of the cases, it's good to find out someone who believes in the same thing and who have edges complementary to yours. That's pretty much about it in short. So I would request all of you to go through the directory of Accept 13 cohort. Link should be there on Slack, and reach out to each and every one of them where you see synergy, obviously, not to everyone just for the sake of it. Or even if you don't see synergy, connect with them, because in future, your network is anyways your network. So that is something which will be helpful to you in the long run. So reach out to each and everyone, have a conversation, do this exercise that I mentioned about edge, hunch, and test, like Akash mentioned, Kuntal mentioned. Reach out by your own and take initiatives, because that's what is our job anyways. And that should be helpful, because anyways, even from our college, we don't remember the sessions or the lectures, but it's more about the people. So build that network which can help you in the long. Thank you. Bye. Take care.